Clemson, Notre Dame, some early thoughts this week. Now, the entire backdrop here, shortly after the Boston College game yesterday, Dabo Swinney announced Trevor Lawrence is going to be out. So you don't have to wonder. We don't have to have a daily Trevor Lawrence update. Here's kind of how I want to ask this, I guess. How much weight will the outcome have? That's kind of how I want to ask this. How much weight will the final here have? What I mean by that, obviously, is if they go up there with Uiagalelei, you can call him DJ if you want to, but since I happen to be able to pronounce the last name, I'm really proud of it. So DJ Uiagalelei goes up there as the starting quarterback. What if they lose 30-23? But then Trevor Lawrence comes back and they run the table the rest of the way. They go scorched earth. I'm going to tell you what I'm not a fan of, but what I think will happen. What I think will happen is the committee will get together and they will decide and take it upon themselves to determine the value of a player. I do not support this at all. I want to tell you that. Crystal clear. I'm fine with the college football playoff. I want 4 teams in the field, don't want expansion, and I'm fine with the college football playoff selection committee doing their jobs, and I think they've done a good job so far. What I'm not on board with is us seeing stuff happen that happens in football, players missing games and potentially losing a game, and then a committee coming back a month later saying, well, the player that they were missing in South Bend on November 6th or 7th, he's back now, and we think they would have won that game. If they played the game again today, we think I don't care what you think, really. I care what you think about the resumes as they appear in front of you. I don't care how many points you think Trevor Lawrence is worth, because my opinion on that should be irrelevant. And I value mine more than yours, believe it or not, so I certainly don't value your opinion on it. Having said that, I think that even if Clemson loses Saturday, that will be very much in play. Clemson is a 6-point favorite, by the way, on the road. This is a Saturday night 7:30 game on NBC. I have something called the Savvy Spectrum. It's not a gas station, but I don't think I've ever spoken about it on this show. The Savvy Spectrum is this, okay? You have the pure window licker crowd who looks and says, Trevor Lawrence is out? Oh, man, Notre Dame by 40 Saturday. Okay, clearly that's not happening. But then also on this entire other end of the spectrum here, you have what I call the brokers. The brokers are people who are not actually sharp, but they know just enough to where they go broke, thus the name brokers, because they think that all the years they've spent watching football gives them an edge, enough to like sports bet and stuff like that. And so they actually don't realize that all the knowledge they've gleaned from football over the years, an odds maker has, and he has baked it into the line. So he's actually using their own knowledge against them because they think they have an angle, and in reality they don't. The brokers right now are saying, oh, that's all right. Clemson will just plug in another 5-star and they'll be good to go. Oh, it's not that simple, friends. So where you want to be is you want to be hanging out with the moderates here, where we realize Clemson has a roster advantage still. However, there could be some issues for them. And they don't have the bailout feature at wide receiver that they normally do. That's where you want to be. Notre Dame can beat them Saturday, in other words. That's where you want to be. Tommy Rees and Ian Book are so important. Well, you know both names. Ian Book's the starting quarterback for Notre Dame. You got Tommy Rees versus Brent Venables. That's the coordinator matchup. OC versus DC. Notre Dame versus Clemson. I don't need to tell you about Venables. I don't have a lot to tell you about Rees. He's still pretty new as an offensive play caller. And that's a big advantage for Clemson. Don't know that it's going to decide the game, but it's a big advantage. Ian Book, all you need from him is his best passing game of the year. I mean, that's not asking too much, right? But he has to have it. We've seen it happen before. I remember being at national championship and SEC championship games, respectively, with Georgia versus Alabama down here a couple of years ago. And Jake Fromm, it always seemed like he played his best football against Alabama. And that's kind of weird because Bama's the best team they play. Why would he not play his best ball against like a South Carolina or someone like that? But he, for whatever reason, played his best ball. All throws were on point, and I'm not saying that's enough to win, but he did that. So all I'm saying is Ian Book needs to do against Clemson what Fromm was able to do against Alabama. That gives them a chance. There will also, it's going to be a chore for the Clemson offense Saturday. Whatever you expect, if you expect them going up and down the field, that's not happening. The typical Clemson edge, as I said, is superior wide receiver talent plus the precision back shoulder throw capability. They normally have that. Third and 16, it doesn't matter. They'll hit one of those precision back shoulder throws and they'll bail themselves out and they'll keep moving. They don't have that right now. I'm telling you, they didn't have it with Lawrence all that much this year. They will not have it with Uiagalelei, and I don't know that they're going to trust him to put the ball in the air like that. Not that they necessarily need to, because you got probably, you can call him the best football player on the field in ETN if you want, but I want to go back, since I made this parallel, you can think about this game within the context of the Georgia-Alabama game that we saw a couple of weeks ago. Why couldn't Georgia hang in that game? They may have the best defense in the country. They've got a powerful offensive line. They got a powerful running game. Why couldn't they hang in that game? Well, they couldn't hang because of a guy named Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith and Mac Jones and Najee Harris. And so balance and explosive passing capability on the other side rendered you unable to trade points. And that's what you couldn't do. And once they got a lead on you, everything about your identity was so ill-conducive to being able to stay in that game that it tilted the game, and you couldn't stay in it. You couldn't trade points. Notre Dame can't trade points with Clemson. Here's the biggest question we'll ask when we preview this game this week. Are they going to have to? Is this a game that's won in the low 30s, or is it a game that's won in the upper teens, low 20s? Very excited for this one.